topic sa first aid. Karamihan po na mayroong mga, kasi sa US meron silang meron talaga silang pinag-aaralan regarding sa first aid. Kaya yung mga bata, kung sakali man na merong na-choke, okay, o meron man na nagkaroon sila ng mga emergency, alam na nila yung gagawin nila. So, meron tayong emergency number din. Ang emergency number natin is 911 din. Kagaya din ng US, meron silang 911, tayo po may 911 din. So, dapat handy, meron tayong, sa telepono natin, lagi dapat tayong may load. Sakali man merong mga ganitong klaseng emergency, mabilis natin silang matutugunan. Or, siguro maganda din yung kung merong ambulance na malapit na ambulance sa bahay natin, dapat alam din natin yung mga emergency numbers po na kakailangan. So, ano yung mga emergency numbers? Kasama dito yung not only hospital but also police, yung mga emergency numbers. Kasama din dito yung mga barangay number nila. And then also yung nearest na kapitbahay natin, yung pinakamalapit na kapitbahay natin for immediate response. And also yung fire department. So, yun yung mga kailangan natin ng mga meron dito sa cellphone natin na emergency numbers. Alright, sige. So, before we go, bigyan ko muna kayo ng isang scenario. Okay, it so happened that you were walking, may nakita kayong isang unconscious man on the street. So, ano daw yung una yung gagawin? Okay, number 1, you are going to administer the first aid. Number 2, you will identify the hazard. And then number 3, you are going to minimize the hazard. So, ano yung unang-unang gagawin dito? Okay, pwede mag-raise ng hand. Kylie? Yan, tama. Okay, so we need to identify first the hazard kasi titignan muna natin kung ano yung mga nag-aabang na panganib kasi hindi natin gusto na kasama din tayo na maging casualty po doon. So, checkin muna natin kung ano yung nakapaligid doon sa scenario. Okay. Sige, so casualties, we should have it in mind na hindi natin dapat i-move yung casualty unless otherwise talagang immediate. Let's say sabihin natin merong fire talaga. So, we need to remove the casualty away from the hazard. Pero, as much as possible, kung safe naman po yung area, okay, we should not immediately remove, lalo na kung may mga aksidenteng nalalaglag, okay, or na-aksidente when it comes to nasagasaan. So, yun po yung mga chances na hindi natin i-remove yung casualty kasi mas lalo ma-aggravate po yung kanyang condition. Okay, so let's first define the first aid. So first aid is our response. Kung sino po yung nandoon nasa scene will need to respond. Okay, it is the first response or a care given to the injured or ill person beforehand. Okay, before the arrival of the professional medical assistance. Okay, so first aid does not constitute a full medical treatment. So, ibig sabihin, habang hinihintay natin ang mga professional medical assistants, meron na tayong ginagawa. Pero pag dumating na sila, sa kanila na po ibibigay yung tinatawag na full medical treatment. Okay? So, ang trabaho po natin is to stabilize the injured person so they can be moved to a hospital or other medical facility. Okay, so there are two types of first aid. So first is yung tinatawag na emergency first aid kung saan immediate yung kailangan nila na tawag dito na attention. For example, drowning, heart attack, and choking. So very very quick, pwede sila pong mamatay. Okay, and then the other one is the non-emergency first aid. Mamaya pag-uusapan natin yung tinatawag na emergency first aid. So, sa second meeting natin, meron din tayong itatakil doon ng emergency first aid, pero meron din tayong itatakil na ng non-emergency first aid. Okay, bakit daw importante ang first aid? So, ito po yung mga reasons. Save and preserve life. So, meaning, it is better to give our first aid rather than do not do anything. So, kung sakali man, ituturuan kayo dito kung paano mag-CPR. Kung hindi kayo confident mag-CPR, at nobody will administer the CPR, do it anyway. Okay? Do it anyway rather than you do nothing at all. So, antayin natin mamatay yung victim, at least kahit papano, okay, alam natin at meron tayong tinulong doon sa casualty. Number two, prevent illness and injury for becoming worse. Isa yun sa mga reason bakit kailangan ng first aid, ayaw natin ma-aggravate yung condition ng victim. Number three, relieve pain if possible. Okay. Number four, promote recovery. And then number five, protect the unconscious. Okay, so bilang first aid, ito po namin yung mga responsibilidad natin. Number one, we need to assess the victim very quickly and calmly. Okay, kailangan ma-assure din natin sa mga um, victim or casualty that they are reassurance na they will be okay. Kasi pagka nagpanic tayo, magpapanik si victim, so magkakaroon yun, maninigas yung mga muscles niya at the same time, tataas yung blood pressure niya. So, lalo siyang ma-aggravate yung kanyang condition. Okay? Number two, we need to protect the victim from excessive loss of blood. So, kailangan ma-check din natin kung merong malaking sugat or malaking area kung saan nagkakaroon ng blood na pag-flow. Kasi pag nawala ang blood, pwede siya mamatay. So, kailangan maprotektahan natin at hindi ma-further mawalan siya ng dugo. Number three, protect ourselves and them also from the danger. So, kaya nga kailangan i-assess natin yung surroundings muna kasi ayaw natin na isa team tayo sa magiging casualty. Number four, prevent infection between you and them. So, pag nagpa-perform ng CPR ngayon, hindi na nire-recommend yung mouth-to-mouth resuscitation or yung tinatawag na rescue breath case for us to prevent also infection between the two parties. Number five, we allow the casualty to access fresh air. Yun po yan. Ano? Kung merong mga marami doon na nagkikisyoso, tell them to leave the area para magkaroon po ng fresh air yung victim. Number six, yun nga sinabi natin, give comfort and reassurance to the victim para magkalma sila. Okay, number seven, you assess the casualty and then give first aid and then arrange for help if needed. Okay, since merong danger at kailangan na ma-assess muna natin yung danger at paano daw natin ma-minimize yung hazard kasi ayaw natin na madagdagan na ang casualty. So these are the things that you need to do, okay? If there are uninjured bystanders, you tell them to move away from the hazard. If the electricity is the source of danger, you ask the authority to turn off the power immediately. Okay, so if the fire is nearby the casualty, okay, you contact the fire department immediately and move the casualty away from the danger zone immediately also. Okay, so you get to get a fire extinguisher if that is possible, okay, para ma-extinguish yung fire. Okay, so if the situation becomes critical because of rain and sunlight, you are going to provide cover to the person kasi ayaw natin na i-remove yung person. Okay, then if the casualty is in a position where he or she is likely to run over by a heavy vehicle, you need to take the action to stop the traffic and then move them. So ito yung mga dapat natin gawin for us to minimize the hazard. Okay, so how are we going to protect the casualty? Kailangan isa ito sa mga responsibilidad ng first aider to protect the casualty. So number one, ipoprotect na natin is the neck. Okay? Kaya nga ayaw natin na i-move no, si casualty kasi very critical yung neck. So kung sakaling man magkaroon po ng injury, yung neck kasi yung papunta sa brain eh. So pag yun, nagkaroon ng damage yung nervous system na yun, yung flow ng oxygen papunta sa brain may i-stop. And we don't want to do that. Okay. So if talagang kailangan i-move yung casualty, the most preferred way is the blanket pull. So ilagay natin si casualty dito and then we move away dito sa danger zone po yung casualty. Okay, so pagka okay na no at naayos na yung lugar ng casualty, we need to assess immediately also yung kanyang condition. Okay, this is what we call the primary survey. So sa primary survey, merong acronym called Dr. ABC. So let's watch this one.
On the body, in this video, we will teach you what to do if you found someone collapsed. The initial assessment is called a primary survey. This is a quick, early assessment to establish how best to treat a casualty in order of priority. We can use the initials .ABC or DRABC to remind us of the steps we need to follow. These initials stand for danger, response, airway, breathing, and circulation. So, when I see a casualty, first, I'm going to check for any danger to make sure it's safe for me to approach them. I don't want to become a casualty myself. Then I'm going to see if I can get a response from the casualty. As you approach, introduce yourself. Ask some questions to try to get a response. If they're not alert and do not respond to your voice, kneel down beside them and gently shake their shoulders. Hello, Amy. It's Winston. Can you hear me? Open your eyes. Still no response? You can pinch their earlobe to see if they respond to pain. Depending on how the casualty responds to you, will establish a level of response. We use the ABPU scale, and each letter can represent the casualty's level of response. A, alert. V, response to voice. P, response to pain. And U is the casualty unresponsive to stimuli. If there's still no response, they are unresponsive. We need to check the airway. Is the casualty alert and speaking to you? You know that there's no problem with the airway. It is clear. If the casualty is unresponsive, open the airway by putting one hand on the forehead and gently tilting the head back with two fingers under the chin. Now we need to check to see if they are breathing normally. We do this by placing our ear and cheek over their nose and mouth, looking down the body to see if the chest rises or falls. We do this for 10 seconds. If the casualty is not breathing normally, call for help. Ask them to call 999 or 112 for emergency help and bring an AED. If you are alone, call for emergency help using a mobile on speakerphone and begin CPR with chest compressions. The casualty is breathing normally, so I'm going to check their circulation. Are there any signs of severe bleeding? Look and check down the body. If you find severe bleeding, try to control the bleeding to prevent life-threatening shock. Call 999 or 112 for emergency help before continuing to treat the casualty. You may also need to treat them for shock. I've established that my casualty is not bleeding. So remember, to do a primary survey, follow the order of Dr. ABC. Complete each step in that order as quickly as possible, dealing with any life-threatening conditions as you find them. Call for emergency help. Call 999 or 112. And that's how we perform a primary survey.
Okay, so we will continue this primary survey. Tapos maintindihan niyo mabuti. Okay, so alam na natin, assessing first aid situation, and then you check the level of response. So pag sinabi natin level of response, titignan natin kung ang victim ay merong ulirat yan. Okay, so nakakausap siya. Ngayon kung nakakausap siya at meron siyang malay, walang problema. Pero pagka unresponsive siya, ibig sabihin hindi siya nagre-respond sa inyo, titingnan nyo, susunod ay titingnan nyo airway. Baka mamaya kasi may may nakabara doon sa lalamunan niya. So, i-check nyo kung may laway. Titignan nyo din kung merong na-choke siya ng isang bagay. Okay, tignan nyo din baka meron pustiso, no? Isa yun, yung mga pustiso na pwedeng makablock. So, chichikin nyo. Kung meron, tanggalin po yun. Okay, so, mabilisan to ha. Ang primary survey, mabilisan siya talaga kasi ang kalaban natin dito yung oras. Okay, so, susunod, titignan natin yung breathing. So, paano daw natin malalaman yung breathing or humihinga yung isang tao? Okay, ilalagay nyo yung pisngi doon sa malapit sa ilong niya at saka sa bibig niya. So, mararamdaman nyo na may hangin. Pag may hangin, ibig sabihin, humihinga siya. Or, titignan nyo yung rise and fall ng kanyang dibdib. Diba? Pag humihinga naman, tumataas, bumababa yung dibdib natin. Checkin nyo dito yung respiration rate. So, very important that you check the respiration rate. Okay, so in 1 minute, sa isang minuto, kailangan magka-count kayo ng rise and fall ng chest ng isang victim. So, pagka 12 to 20 ang respiration rate niya, ibig sabihin normal yon. Walang problema, humihinga siya. Pero pagka ang respiration niya bumaba ng 12 or tumaas ng 20, there is a problem with the oxygen supply of the victim. So meaning, we need to proceed right away to circulation. So paano nyo naman daw i-check yung circulation ng isang victim? Okay, so circulation means yung pag-heartbeat. Okay? Siyempre, ang heart kasi kailangan mag-beat yan para mag-circulate yung blood. Okay. Ito titignan natin. Okay, sa pulso or sa ilalim ng leeg. So I hope, okay, so tingnan natin ngayon can you please check your pulse? So sa inyo yung kung anong klaseng, anong part ng ating katawan, you check your pulse. And then can you please count? Tignan nyo mabuti ha. So get a timer. Tayo ng timer. Nagkahanap ako ng timer dito. Tapos, bilangin natin kung ilan ang, syempre of course, normal tayo, di ba? Pakibilang ha. Wait na. Hanap ako ng timer dito sa aking telepono. Sabay-sabay gawin natin ha. Wait. Timer. Where are you? Wait. Sige. So, count natin ha. Okay, ilagay nyo yung mga, although hindi ko kayo nakikita, please do it para at least alam natin. Okay, huwag yung dayaan ng sarili ninyo. Ako gagawin ko din to. Okay, ako nilagay ko yung aking middle finger tsaka yung aking pointed finger on my neck. So, tignan nyo mabuti kung may pintig. Check nyo nga. May nakita na kayong pulso? Ayan, meron na akong nakikita, meron na akong naririnig na pulso. Nararamdamang pulso sa leeg ko. Meron na kayo?
Yes po.
Okay, sige, count natin. Mag-count kayo, sasabihin ko lang kung stop ha, then sasabihin ko kung kailan mag-uumpisa ha. Okay, so ready? Set, go. Stop. Okay, nakailan kayo? Nakailang pulse rate kayo? Ako 77. Kayo?
76.
Yon, okay. So, ibig sabihin, normal. Siyempre, of course, di ba? Normal naman talaga tayo. Okay, ulitin natin ha. Ang pulse rate pag normal, 60 to 80 ha. Pag bumaba dyan, may problema. Okay, so pagka sa tingin nyo walang pulso, diretso na kayo kay CPR na. Okay, so pupuntahan natin itong tinatawag na CPR. Kailangan maintindihan natin at malaman natin kung tama or proper ang execution ng ating paggawa ng cardiopulmonary resuscitation. Okay, so itong CPR na to, explain na lang dito. Meron naman dito, may mag-explain po dito. Okay, then balikan natin ito mamaya. Okay, so let's watch this one para mas maintindihan natin yung purpose ng CPR.
Our heart is an amazing organ. It works hard for us every second of every day, delivering blood and oxygen to every cell in our body. But when sudden cardiac arrest strikes, our heart suddenly and unexpectedly stops beating effectively and blood flow stops. Without any intervention, the brain, vital organs, and our heart will begin to die. Beginning CPR is the person's only chance of survival. Brain damage will start to set in within 4 minutes, and after 10 minutes, brain damage becomes irreversible. The power to save a life is truly in your hands.
Okay, so yun yung sinasabi, no? Very critical yung time. So, kailangan alam natin yung gagawin natin immediately.
Performing CPR accomplishes two critical things. One, compressions move oxygenated blood to the brain to keep the brain alive. And two, compressions keep blood and oxygen moving to the heart muscle itself so that it has the best chance of resuming a normal electrical rhythm after a shock is delivered.
Okay, so once the heart stops, okay, everything stops kasi siya nga ang circulatory system. So once the circulatory system stops, all the major internal organs also stops. So we don't want to stop everything because the person will die. So tayo, ang kamay natin, ang gagawa ng paraan to move, okay, or to pump the heart. Yun po yan. Kaya very important na alam natin yung execution nung pagdiin at yung rhythm, yung bilis ng pagpump natin or yung paggawa natin ng CPR. Okay. Ano pa ba yung sasabihin ko? Nakalimutan ko. Okay. Sige, let's proceed na lang ulit.
As you begin compressions, you are creating an artificial pump and doing the work of the heart manually.
Yan. Okay, so ulitin ko. Naalala ko na yung sasabihin ko. Importante na ma-CPR muna siya kasi di ba nag-stop na siya. Ngayon, ang isa sa mga reason bakit nagsi-CPR is gusto nating paganahin uli yung puso kasi nga tumigil siya eh. So pagka nag-pump tayo or ginawa natin yung CPR, babalik. Pwede uling ang puso ang umandar. Kaya minsan, di ba, meron silang ginagawit na AED, ina-electrocute nila or sinashock nila yung puso para gumana uli. Yun. So, isa sa mga reason bakit sini-CPR is papaganahin. Kasi babalik naman talaga sa normal rhythm yung puso kung sakaling man siya ay ma-perform yung tamang CPR.
With each good, effective compression, you are building up pressure in the system, which will move blood around the heart and up to the brain. It does take time to get the blood moving with CPR, so it is very important to push hard and push fast to build the pressure up, which keeps blood going to the brain.
Okay, class. Very important yung sinabi, push hard and then push fast. Nakakangawit ito kung sa tunay na tao ang gagawin natin dito is talaga nakakangawit po siya kasi kailangan malalim. 2 inches ang lalim niya. Okay, importante ang 2 inches. Explain dito sa video bakit daw importante ang 2 inches at bakit importante ang 100 to 100 beats per minute. Let's watch.
Pushing down at least 2 inches allows for the heart to be squeezed and blood to move out. Pushing at a rate of 100 to 120 compressions per minute is necessary to keep blood pumping.
Okay. Sa pagka 2 inches and 100 to 120, makikita niyo po yung oxygenated blood. Pumupunta yan sa brain. At nagsisirculate yan around the body. Ito po siya. Okay. So, paano daw pagka magaang ang inyong pressure?
Let's see what happens when we take our hands off the chest. Blood stops moving to the brain. It is for this reason that if you are taking your hands off the chest to deliver breaths or switching roles, it is critical to minimize time off the chest. Watch what happens when we don't push deep enough. Blood does not reach the brain.
Okay. Pagka hindi masyadong malalim, hanggang dito lang, hindi siya nakakapunta sa brain.
The same is true if we do not push fast enough.
Okay. Pag mabagal, ganyan din.
Watch what happens when we push too fast.
Hindi rin.
The heart does not have time to refill with blood. Therefore, not enough blood gets pumped out.
Okay, so yun very critical. Yung diin, which is 2 inches, and then yung bilis, which is 100 to 120.
Watch what happens when we don't allow the body to decompress and allow the chest to fully recoil.
Kung
The
ganyan lang
heart does
daw,
not have a chance to refill with blood. Therefore, no blood gets pumped out. So remember, the key purpose of delivering compressions is to keep oxygenated blood moving within the heart and up to the brain to keep the brain alive. We need to push hard and push fast in the center of the chest. If ribs break, that's okay. What's not okay is allowing the brain to die from a lack of oxygen. So remember, you are their only hope. Do the best you can and don't give up until medical help arrives or an AED is present.
Okay, class, ganito yun. Hanggat hindi kayo nakakakita ng sign ng life sa tao, you will never stop pumping the heart. Ngayon, nakakangawit siya talaga, masakit. Kung may dadating na paramedic po, sometimes hindi naman dumadating yan ng 5 minuto, dadating yan mga walang 10, pinakamabilis yung 10 minutes, 15 minutes, mabilis na yun. So kung ganun kabagal, kailangan din hindi nyo titigilan yung pumping ninyo. Kaya kailangan merong ibang tao na sasalo po sa inyo. At dapat din matrain din sila kung paano mag-perform ng CPR. Para kung sakaling man mangawit kayo at wala na kayong lakas, continue. Kasi hindi pwedeng hindi yan makontinue, mamamatay yung victim. Okay, so puntahan natin yung ibang series nitong CPR na to. Okay. Ito naman, titignan dito yung position ng hand. Position ng hand, kung saan ilalagay yung palm, okay, yung position ng katawan natin, okay, ano yung pandidiin natin, para hindi tayo, para yung
How to
diin,
perform
yan, yung diin na 2 inches ma-achieve natin.
hands-only CPR. Cardiac emergencies can happen anywhere. Be prepared with a simple technique known as hands-only CPR. You can learn it in minutes, it's easy to remember, and it can help save a life. You will need the willingness to act and a few simple skills. Whenever possible, use disposable gloves when providing emergency care. Step 1. If you see someone suddenly collapse, check the scene for safety and then see if the person responds to you by tapping them on the shoulder and shouting, "Are you okay?"
And that is primary survey.
Step 2. Briefly look for breathing. Step 3. If they don't respond, call or send someone to call 911 or the local emergency number right away. Step 4. If the person is not breathing or is gasping, prepare to give chest compressions. Kneel beside them and put the heel of one hand on the center of their chest. Place your other hand over that hand.
Okay, so titignan natin dito yung nipple ng victim. Okay, ilalagay nyo yung inyong head, yan yung hindi not the palm, but the head of your hand. Okay, ang dapat nasa ilalim yun yung pinaka-prominent hand nyo. Kung kanan kayo, yun yung ilalagay nyo sa ilalim, yung kanan na kamay po ninyo. Okay, doon po sa gitna, between the nipples, yun po yung place or doon yung ilalagay yung inyong heel ng hand po ninyo. Then, interlocking tong isang hand po.
And lacing your fingers together. Position your shoulders directly over your head.
Diretso. Okay, diretso din ang arm. Pagka nagpupush, ang pagpupush nyo yung katawan, hindi yung braso. Okay, diretso lang ang braso. Kasi kung braso yan, hindi didiin ng 2 inches yan. So, kailangan 2 inches yan. So, ang gagawin ninyo, yung pinakalikod nyo, ito po, yung magdidiin yan.
Hands, keeping your arms straight and your fingers off the chest. Step 5. Push hard and fast, at least 2 inches, then let the chest rise completely before pressing down again. Don't take your hands off the chest, just your weight. Step 6. Keep going. Do not stop compressions until the person shows an obvious sign of life like breathing. The scene becomes unsafe. An automated external defibrillator or AED is ready. You're too exhausted to continue, or a trained responder takes over. Step 7. Get training and encourage others to do so by taking an American Red Cross health and safety course. Knowing full CPR, chest compressions, and breaths will enable you to help in other emergencies such as drowning and choking. Every household should have at least one person trained in life-saving skills. Did you know? Most people who survive a cardiac emergency are helped by a bystander. To find your local Red Cross chapter, visit redcross.org.
Okay, so alam na natin yung position. Ngayon, ang titignan natin, yung sinasabi nilang 100 to 120 beats per minute. Ito yung frequency ng compression natin.
If you see a teen or adult suddenly collapse, it's important to act fast. Helping to save a life is easier than you might think. Just start hands-only CPR. The first step is to send someone to call your local emergency response number or call it yourself. Then get directly over the victim. Put the heel of one hand in the center of the chest. Then put your other hand on top of the first. Then push hard and fast in the center of the chest until help arrives. It's important to push, giving 100 to 120 compressions per minute, which is about the same tempo as this song.
Okay, so ganyan kabilis 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. Okay. So pag-aralan ninyo, importante na mapag-aralan po ninyo yung tempo. Yung diin, hindi na kailangan kasi wala namang tao na ano. Okay, yung diin siguro pag-practicean nyo yung unan, di ba? Ay, hindi pwede unan kasi yung unan kasi malambot eh. Remember, yung chest natin matigas. So, pag-practicean nyo, wala kasi tayong dummy. Kung may dummy, walang problema eh. Okay? Bahala kayo kung paano kayo magpa-practice na 2 inches. Pagka teddy bear, malambot din eh. So, hindi naman ganun kalambot yung chest natin, matigas yung chest natin. So, you practice. Sige. So, puntahan natin ngayon yung real life scenario ng CPR. Meron akong binookmark dito.
If you see a teen...
No, it's not the one. Meron na akong inano dito. Yung actual scenario.
Kahit maraming spoonwork, kaya mag-keep up dahil mabilis ang pick up sa tulong ng Nutriplex.
Actual.
CPR.
Ay natin yung actual scenario. CPR. Sige, tingnan natin ito.
If it wasn't for this team here at Salem Hospital, I'd be dead.
61-year-old John Juris of West Salem started sweating and felt chest pains the morning of April 4th.
I just had a weird, strange feeling that something was definitely wrong. I remember telling her I needed to get to the hospital.
He never goes to the doctor. And when he says he needs to go, don't question it.
John's girlfriend, Janet Carter, decided to drive him to Salem Hospital. She felt his heart stop beating when she pulled up outside the emergency department.
I was laying on the horn and realized nobody could hear me, so I had to get out and go in.
Janet ran by Ola Yost, the trauma nurse who was just starting her shift. Yost noticed another nurse, Hattie Lowry, plus an emergency department technician heading outside.
I didn't know what was going on, but she looked like she was in a hurry. So I ran after her, and immediately she yelled for a stretcher for me to go grab a stretcher. You could hear in the tone of her voice that this was a serious situation. CPR is just one of those first things. You got to keep that heart pumping to get the oxygen flowing to his brain. She was performing using the seat as a backboard and performing against the seat. And you could see the whole car moving while she was doing that. Once we had enough help, we got him out of the car and right onto the stretcher. As soon as I jumped on top of him and started performing CPR, that's when it really slowed down. It was very slow motion, seeing him and looking at how bad he looked at that time, and just knowing that we need to get him into a room fast.
There were so many people responding to his situation. It was incredible.
Emergency physician Jeff Hemstreet was part of the team that spent 45 minutes trying to resuscitate Juris as his heartbeat returned and then faded several times.
He was breathing on his own, clenching his teeth, and that's a sign of brain function. And this was a ways into the resuscitation still. His heart wasn't beating.
So, puntahan natin yung iba. Cardiac arrest. Let's check this one. Okay, good thing. Nasa ospital siya. Paano kung malayo sa ospital?
And then
Yeah, Roger, always been 5'4", 21-year-old, 237 M16, huh?
But no problems, we're on his way, Chuck. Cheers, love, bye.
You know, last one was diabetes, epilepsy. ECG looks a little bit dodgy at the moment, not 100% sure what it is. Okay, but we'll just err on the side of caution. Just give me a trip down to LGL. Okay, just pop that up there for us. It's going to need to be the secondary site. What time do they open? 8 o'clock. Or best with a crew. Oh, a crew. Yeah. Yeah, I'm on floor. India. Game on floor. You're in trouble now, yes, it's good.
Hello, can I have an ambulance, please, at Leeds Bradford Airport? The air ambulance space, please.
Connect electrode.
All right, Chris, go on, kid. Go on, Chris. Chris, you with us, mate? Chris, it's changed. You're at work. It's just oxygen. It's just changed. You're at work. Just relax. Thanks, Chris.
I don't up till 8 o'clock in the morning. We're on the early shift today at 7. It's now 7:35, so we may just get lucky, but we'll wait and see. Got an ambulance on the way, and we'll decide there what's the best thing to do with Chris. So he's back with us now, so thank God for that.
Okay, should we just reanalyse everything then? We're back in there. Okay, normal sinus rhythm, okay. He's got a lining. He's had no adrenaline. He's had aspirin. He has a buckle and CPR and the shocks. Get yourself. Word. All right.
Okay.
That's to shock him twice, trying to get that.
He was revived. See? Kaya importante ang CPR, no? Hirap po. Okay, so ito naman ay CPR naman sa baby. So, importante din na alam din ninyo kung paano mag-CPR sa mga babies. hindi na po sa mga adult.
Hello, and welcome to the Nicholas Children's Health System Learning and Development CPR educational video. This video will demonstrate the proper way to perform CPR on an infant up to 1 year of age. And also it will include how to respond to a potential choking situation with an infant. Let's start with the basics. What is CPR? CPR is short for cardiopulmonary resuscitation, which is the action of pushing hard or compressing the chest and giving breath to an infant. CPR will keep oxygen and blood flowing throughout the body of an infant whose heart has stopped beating. Many people are afraid to start CPR for fear of not knowing the proper CPR technique. Never be afraid to perform CPR. Any CPR is better than no CPR. Let's get started. If you find an unresponsive infant, first check for responsiveness by tapping the foot and shouting, "Baby, baby, are you okay?" Did the baby move, blink, cough, or show any signs of life? Now you try it with me. With your mannequin, tap the foot. "Baby, baby, are you okay? Are you okay?" Did the baby respond? If no response, yell for help. "Help, help, I can't wake the baby up." If someone is there, tell them to call 911. "Hey, you in the blue shirt, you call 911. If you're all by yourself, you will need to do 5 cycles of CPR and then call 911. Don't worry about the 5 cycles. You'll learn how to do them during this video. Now you try it with me. Let's yell for help. "Help, help, I can't wake the baby. You in the blue shirt, call 911. Now try with me. Move the clothes out of the way so you can see the infant's chest and belly. Scan for breathing from the head to the belly for 5 seconds, but no more than 10 seconds. Is the chest moving? Is the baby breathing? Could the baby only be gasping? Gasping is not normal breathing. It's a rapid sucking in of air, and it is not normal breathing. If the baby is gasping or not breathing, this baby needs CPR. To start CPR, we'll need to give 30 compressions in 2 breaths again and again until the infant wakes up and begins to breathe, or someone can take over for you. Remember, if you're alone, you'll need to give 5 cycles of CPR, then call 911. Put your phone on speaker so the emergency staff can communicate with you. Let's practice infant CPR. 1 cycle is 30 compressions and 2 breaths. Let's start with 2 compressions. First, place your hands 1 finger breadth below mid-nipple line over the lower half of the sternum or breastbone. Place the other hand on the forehead to help keep the infant's airway open. Try along with me. Let's try the position again. We're going to draw a line right across the nipple line to the center of the chest. Lift your top finger, 1 hand on the forehead, and you are in position to start CPR. Compress or push down at least 1/3 the depth of the chest, or about 1.5 inches, or until you feel resistance. We're going to compress about 30 times at a fast rate. We're trying to achieve about 100 to 120 compressions per minute. Be sure to allow the chest to rise back up to normal position after each compression. Count out loud. Let's show you. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. After 30 compressions, you will need to give 2 breaths. Ready? Let's practice how to give 2 breaths. Keeping 1 hand on your infant's forehead, place 2 fingers just on the bony part of the infant's chin so you can tilt the head backwards so the nose points to the ceiling. You try the position with me. Hand on the forehead, 2 fingers on the chin, tip the head back slightly so the nose points to the ceiling. To give your two breaths, you'll need to cover the baby's mouth and nose with your mouth. And you're going to breathe in just until you see chest rise. It looks like this. Did you see the chest rise? If the chest didn't rise, reposition the head and try your breath again. Practice these breaths with me. Let's give at least 2 breaths this time. Breathe. Lift. Keep on going. Give cycles of 30 compressions and 2 breaths over it and over again until the baby wakes up or someone can take over for you. If you're alone, complete 5 cycles of CPR, then call 911.
Okay, so immediately you call the emergency number para may iniintay kayo. So habang hinihintay ninyo, administer the CPR. So wag natin titigilan hanggat meron tayong nakitang sign ng buhay. Or pag dumating na, yung medical professionals, tsaka natin i-stop yung CPR. Okay, since hindi tayo trained to perform CPR, all we need to do is to administer the uninterrupted chest compression. Doon lang. Hindi na natin kailangan magbigay ng rescue breath. Una-una, pangalagaan natin din yung sarili natin na hindi tayo ma-infect at papangalagaan din natin yung yung casualty na hindi rin siya ma-infect. Kaya very important po that we need to provide yung tinatawag na uninterrupted chest compression. Okay, so dalawa lang naman ang pag-uusapan natin ngayon. Ito naman ay kailangan din ng immediate na attendance po or i-attend natin dahil kasi na-choke siya. So, ang choking ay delikado din at pwede din pong makamatay. So, paano naman daw ang gagawin, ano? Kung ang isang tao ay mayroong o na-choke. Okay, check natin ito. So, bago natin puntahan itong video na to, okay, so bago natin puntahan yung video, importante na alam natin kung paano mag-communicate. Kasi pagka na-choke ka, hindi ka na makapagsalita. So this is a universal sign of choking. Okay, so you never know what moment may bring to save you from choking. Struggling to breathe may not help sometimes. So do this universal stand. So ilalagay nyo yung dalawang kamay ninyo sa inyong lalamunan. So ibig sabihin nun, you are providing information and signal that you are suffering from choking. So just in case po, may mga kasama kayo na hindi nila alam universal sign ng choking, ito po yung other indications. Helplessness or inability to talk, hindi sila makapagsalita. Struggling to breathe, okay? Merong squeaky sound when trying to breathe, tsaka medyo aligaga na sila. So hindi na nila alam kung ano yung ginagawa nila kasi nahihirapan na silang huminga eh. Okay, so weak and then forceful coughing. Umuubo na sila. Okay, wag na nating paabutin na nagbo-blue ang kanilang muka at nagbo-blue na rin yung lips nila. So meaning, maglo-loss ng consciousness na nila, so hindi na umaabot yung oxygenated blood sa utak nila. Pagka ganun po, CPR na kayo agad. Okay. Puntahan natin ito.
If you think an adult or child is choking, ask them, are you choking? Cough it out. If they are coughing, encourage them to continue as they may be able to remove the obstruction. If they're unable to speak or cough, they need your help straight away. If coughing doesn't work, slap it out. Support the upper body with one hand and help them to bend forward. Use the heel of your hand to give up to 5 sharp back blows between their shoulder blades. Then check to see if there's anything in their mouth. If there is, tell them to pick it out. If back blows don't work, try giving up to 5 abdominal thrusts. Squeeze it out. To give the abdominal thrust, stand behind them, put your arms around them and link your hands between their tummy button and the bottom of their chest. Clench your lower hand in a fist, grasp your fist with your other hand and pull sharply inwards and upwards. Repeat up to 5 times. Check their mouth. If they're still choking, call 999 or 112 for emergency help. Use a speakerphone if you can. Keep repeating the 5 back blows and 5 abdominal thrusts until the blockage clears or help arrives. If they become unresponsive, open the airway and check their breathing. If they're not breathing normally, start CPR. So remember, if someone's choking, cough it out, slap it out, squeeze it out. If it's not cleared, call 999 or 112 for emergency help. Keep repeating the cycle. Start CPR if they become unresponsive, and that's how we treat choking.
Okay, so tignan natin yung proper administration. No? Yung, saan ilalagay yung kamay, anong parte ng katawan ilalagay yung kamay, para alam natin kung paano natin i-execute yung Heimlich maneuver.
Kung may foreign object na ma-stuck sa lalamunan ng isang tao, maaari itong magdulot ng panganib dahil mapipigilan ito ang paghinga. Ito ang tinatawag na choking. Ang mga palatandaan na ang tao ay nacho-choke, maaaring hindi siya makapagsalita, hindi rin makaubo, at hindi makahinga ng normal, at maaaring mawalan ng malay. At kung hindi ito maagapan, ay maaaring mauwi sa kamatayan. Kapag kayo ay bystander sa ganitong pangyayari, dapat mabilis ang ating reaksyon para matulungan ang isang taong nacho-choke. Kung conscious ang pasyente, tanungin siya kung nacho-choke o nabibilaukan. Kapag nakapagsasalita ang pasyente, ay hikayatin siya na umubo ng malakas upang mailabas ang obstruction. Kung hindi naman siya makapagsalita at tumangulang, ay umpisahan ang abdominal thrust. Pumunta sa likuran ng pasyente at gawin ang tripod position.
Okay, ulitin natin. Tingnan natin ito tinatawag na tripod position. Kung mapapansin niyo po, yung paa nung rescuer, yung isang paa niya nandito sa in between nung legs nung victim. Kasi may possibility na mawalan ng malay yung biktima. Okay? So, hindi siya mababagok or hindi basta-basta siya malalaglag. So, mabibigyan ng opportunity na masalo nung legs nung rescuer yung victim.
Ilagay ang nakasaradong kamay sa sukat na 2 daliri sa ibabaw ng puso.
Okay. I-locate ninyo yung pusod ng victim and then 2 daliri. So, that is 1 inch. Then, doon sa taas na yon, doon yung ipoposition yung inyong kamay. Okay, so ito yung positioning ng kamay. Okay, naka-fist. Okay, yung fist ninyo. Then yung bandang thumb, yun yung nasa loob po. Nung natatouch yung sikmura o yung tiyan ng victim.
Gawin ang inverted J motion hanggang sa mailabas ang nakabara o mawalan ng malay ang...
Ulitin natin thrust ang tawag dyan. Okay? In, up. In, up. Okay? Para kayong naghahak, naghukukay. Para mailabas or maipush kung ano yung naka-dislodge doon sa lalamunan ng victim.
Pasyente. Kapag nawalan ng malay ang pasyente, ay agad siyang ihiga sa matigas at patag na lugar gaya ng sahig. I-check o tignan ng bibig kung may lumabas na foreign object at alisin ito sa pamamagitan ng finger sweep. Kung naalis na o wala nang lumabas na foreign object, sunod na magbigay ng 30 chest compressions. Ituloy lang ang pagkasunod-sunod hanggang sa magkamalay ang pasyente o dumating ang tinawagang rescue team. Kung magkamalay naman ang pasyente, gawin ang recovery position. Tandaan, kung ikaw ay bystander at may biktima ng choking, narito ang mga lifesaver steps na pwede ninyong gawin. Kung may malay ang pasyente, tanungin kung siya ay nachochoke o nabibilaukan. Hikayatin ang pasyente na umubo ng malakas kung siya ay nakapagsasalita. Isagawa ang abdominal thrust sa pasyente kung hindi siya nakapagsasalita. Kung nawalan ng malay, gawin ang sequence na i-check ang bibig kung may lumabas na foreign object. Magbigay ng 30 compressions hanggang magkamalay o dumating ang rescue team. Kung magkamalay naman ang pasyente, gawin ang recovery position.
To learn.
Puntahan natin yung real life scenario. Ito, tingnan natin to. Okay, so ito po ay, this is a real life scenario ng choking.
Happened at a big boy restaurant in Woodhaven when a waitress eating during her break began to choke. Co-workers did what they could to help, but as she tells our Larry Spruill, it took a stranger to step in to save her.
Everything happened here inside this restaurant. The unthinkable happened. An employee was working a normal shift when she started choking.
I was terrified. I couldn't breathe.
Big boy waitress Nicole recalls the life-threatening moments last Friday at her job here in Woodhaven. She was working her regular shift. Things were busy, and she was hungry. So she quickly took a bite of the restaurant's famous cornbread before helping a customer.
So I heard the bell ding, so I hopped up like I was in like this kind of position or something. And then the cornbread got stuck in my throat.
And she started choking.
I couldn't talk. I couldn't anything.
The video then shows Nicole trying to get her co-worker Shirley attention, waving and punching her several times. You can see Nicole putting her hands up in the air, walking around, anything to just breathe.
And then she gave me the Heimlich maneuver. Wouldn't come out. There was an officer somewhere in the restaurant, and he came up and gave me the Heimlich maneuver about, I don't know, 7 times maybe.
Local 4 learned he's a Michigan State trooper and was inside the restaurant eating. The video shows him patting Nicole on the back, trying to get the cornbread to come out. Restaurant owner Habib Babin says everything happened so fast, but so slow at the same time.
I was freaking out. I mean, you know, something like that, it was crazy.
Minutes later, paramedics arrived, but the Heimlich maneuver from both Shirley and Trooper Mark Adams worked. But when asked, would she eat another piece of cornbread?
Yeah, it's good cornbread. It wasn't dry. Yeah, I love the cornbread.
Just take your time.
Yeah, I'll sit down and eat it like you're supposed to.
Yan. Lesson learned, huwag magmadaling kumain. But another thing is, kailangan alam natin yung gagawin natin in terms na merong na-choke. So please practice. Okay, isa sa mga dapat matutunan din natin is paano natin matulungan naman yung mga babies. Kasi ang mga babies very prone po sa choking. Maraming mga bagay-bagay na nilalagay nila sa mga bibig nila at kailangan po na hindi natin sila pababayaan. Kasi usually may mga bata talaga na, lalo na mga baby siya, nilalagay nila lahat sa bibig nila eh. So huwag niyo papabayaan ng bata na mag-isa.
Choking prevention, recognition, and response. When it comes to prevention of choking, there are 3 key things that we need to do. First of all, we need to be aware of different objects around our house that we need to keep out of reach of children. And here are some common objects that I've actually collected from around my own home. You can certainly see that, there are so many things. It's almost anything in your house that a child can choke on. Everything from lollipops to pieces of Lego. Certainly, sometimes things we don't even think about, like leaves can actually cause a flap over a child's airway. And certainly things like hair clips, coins, and most importantly, we need to remember to keep button batteries out of reach, because not only are they a choking hazard, but they can also cause terrible burns in children. Now, the other thing that we need to consider when it comes to food is the size of what we chop things up into, particularly grapes and sausages. Now, often when we think of a grape, That is the perfect size to lodge in a child's airway. So please always remember, chop up the grapes. Chopping them in half, it's still that perfect spherical shape to lodge in a child's airway. Please make sure that we're chopping them up into quarters. And if you don't have time to chop them into quarters, just squish them. We just don't want them to be that lovely round shape. When it comes to sausages, often we'll just cut them into these circles thinking they're a nice small bit for a child. But once again, that perfect circle is the right size to lodge in a child's airway. So always chop up your sausages into batons. It is better for a child to chew on one of these than to have that perfect circle lodged in their airway. Think about other types of foods as well. Young children shouldn't be eating whole nuts. Popcorn can be quite dangerous to lodge in an airway too. Perfectly fine for older kids, but be really cautious in the younger ones. When it also comes to prevention, what I encourage you to do is get your children to sit down to eat. Children who run around with objects or food in their mouth are more likely to choke. And also, make sure you keep young children in your direct line of sight. It can be really tempting just to nip off and have a quick shower while your child is settled in their high chair. But what's really important is that you remember that choking can be silent. Always keep young children in your line of sight, watching them while they're eating. When it comes to recognising choking in children, it's really important to understand that choking is different to gagging. Gagging is a completely normal response. You may notice when you introduce solids to your child that, you know, the first little while when you're doing that, you'll pop a spoonful of food in their mouth and they will gag, they will vomit that food up. They'll then pick it up again and start eating it again, and it's disgusting, but it's completely normal. So remember, your child, when they gag, they may get a little bit red in the face. They may have watery eyes. They may cough. They may vomit that piece of food up, but they're not distressed and they're able to clear it themselves. Choking is different. Choking is when something is lodged in their airway or esophagus. They are in distress and we need to help them. If your child is choking, this is what you're going to do. Firstly, if they are unconscious, you need to go through doctor's ABCD. If your child has what we call a strong, effective cough, that is, they're able to take a big breath in and a big cough out, then what you're going to do is encourage them to keep coughing. Now, you may be tempted to go and stick your fingers in your child's mouth and try and dig out whatever is in there. Please be cautious, because if you do this, you may push that object further down. If the object is at the front of the mouth and you can easily remove it, please do so. Otherwise, leave it there. If their cough is strong and effective, simply encourage them to keep coughing and watch them closely. If your child has an ineffective cough or they're silent, so they are, or that's not a strong lung full of air in or out, then we need to intervene. We're going to take the baby out of the high chair or whatever it is that they're in. We're going to lay them down across our laps. Hold them so that you're not going to drop them. Ideally, we want their bottom higher than their head. And we're going to give back blows and chest thrusts. A back blow is not a whack on the back. Using the heel of your hand between their shoulder blades, it is a firm blow to expel the air out of their lungs to try and pop that object out. We can give up to 5 back blows, followed by up to 5 chest thrusts. So, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Checking after each blow to see if the object has come out. If the object comes out after the first one, you don't need to give all 5. If the object does not come out, turn your child over. Once again, bottom higher than the head and holding them firmly. We're going to give chest thrusts. 2 fingers for a small baby, heel of your hand for a bigger baby or child. On the center of their chest, over the hard breastbone. This is not on their tummy. We are not doing the Heimlich maneuver in children. We're going to give up to 5 chest thrusts. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If that hasn't worked, turn them back over. Go back into your back blows again and continue. 5, 5, 5, 5, until either the object comes out or they become unconscious when you're going through doctor's ABCD. If after the first 5 back blows that the object has not come out, it is important that you call for an ambulance immediately. To do back blows and chest thrusts on an older child who is too big to put across your lap, simply hold them in your arms, back blows between their shoulder blades, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and for chest thrusts, simply support them, hand on top of that hard breastbone, remember not over the tummy, and up to 5 chest thrusts. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If your child is taller and you can't support them properly, simply get them to sit in the chair to do chest thrusts or even lean them up against a wall.
Okay, so this is what you're going to do. Okay, I want you to practice the Heimlich maneuver and also the CPR. Okay, so kailangan nyo pong practicing yun. Practice, practice, practice. Yun, pupunta kayo ngayon dito sa announcement area. Okay, so may nakalagay dito, primary survey, CPR adult, and then choking, yung adult choking. So, bago kayo mag-video, bago kayo mag-record ng video, kailangan nyo po munang i-practice mabuti at maraming practice ang gagawin ninyo sa 3 papagawa ko sa inyo. Okay, ulitin po natin. Okay, ito po ay kailangan nito ng skill competency. So, hindi tayo makakapag-save ng buhay kung ang quiz natin ay written. So, kailangan makita ko yung tamang execution or tamang demonstration nyo po dito sa 3 competency na titingnan natin, which is the primary survey, the CPR for adult, and then the choking or the Heimlich maneuver for the adult. Okay, number 1, perform and demonstrate the first aid procedures. 3 yan ha. Demonstrate these procedures by applying to the real person. Hindi kayo magpe-perform nitong 3 na to sa pillow, sa manika, at sa teddy bear. Okay, karamihan kasi yung mga dati kong estudyante, just for the sake of mag-submit lang sila ng requirement para lang ma-comply nila. Hindi tama yun. Okay? Ang tinitignan natin dito is the competency. Okay? Yung skill ninyo para pagdating ng panahon at kailangan ninyo pong magbigay po ng first aid sa mga taong nangangailangan. Alam nyo na kung ano ang gagawin po ninyo. Okay, so make sure that this is only for demonstration. So, ang nakita nyo kanina no, nag-demonstrate yung sa choking, hindi naman niya diniin yung kanyang kamay dun sa chest ng tao. Pakita nyo lang yung tamang positioning, okay? At saka tama yung tawag dito, positioning at also yung tamang execution. Ngayon, kung sasabihin nyo yung 2 inches dun sa CPR, huwag nyo na idiin doon sa tao yung 2 inches chest compression. Pakita nyo lang sa akin. Yun po siya. Okay. Then, explain each procedure. Okay, on the proper execution. Ngayon, isi-save nyo yon sa file name niyo. So, ang ibig sabihin, sa file name, ilagay nyo na lang po ang surname and then first name. All caps na lang tayo. Okay, then upload your video to this link. So, meron 3 yan. Choking, CPR, at saka yung vital signs, which is the Dr. ABC. Ayan, tignan ko muna. Using ko lang muna ito. Share. Change. Yan, naka-editor na siya. Ibig sabihin, pwede na kayong mag-upload dito ng inyong video. Naka-editor na rin siya. Okay. Natin ito. Yes, naka-editor na rin siya. Okay, so kung paano ang ano nyo, ang upload, tigi-tigi sa yan para at least makita ko. Hindi kailangan matagal. Ipakita nyo lang yung proper execution. So, bibigyan ko lang kayo ng sample kung paano ko makikita yung in-upload yung video. Okay, so, ganito yung gusto kong makita na yan. Okay, apelido muna. Capital letter lahat yan ha. Para at least madali kong makita kung sino yung nakapag-submit po nito. Okay, gets po ninyo? So, ganyan lang. Okay, mag-upload ng folder. So, ang upload nyo lang yung video na ipinasok po ninyo dito. There you go. So, tatlo to, ha? Okay. So, bigyan ko kayo hanggang next week. So, next week is April 19. Tama ba April 19 next week? Yeah, okay, April 19 para makita na makahabol tayo sa midterm. Yun. Madali lang to. Hindi to kailangan tumagal. Okay? Kailangan matuto kayo. Okay, ulitin ko uli ha. Hindi kayo magsasubmit for the sake of compliance. Hindi kayo magsasubmit for the sake na sabihin nyo, okay, nakapag-submit ako. Ang titignan ko dito is the proper execution and the proper demonstration. Kailangan importante na ma-execute natin na maayos kasi buhay ang nakasalalay po dito. Hindi grade ninyo. Alam ko, magkakagrade naman kayo kahit anong mangyari. Pero ang gusto kong makita dito, tama ang inyong procedures na gagawin. Kasi darating ang time, magsasave po kayo ng buhay. Okay, so that's all for this session. Dalawa lang muna kasi ayoko naman na ma-overwhelm kayo sa dami ng first aid. So tatlo lang ang pag-aaralan natin. Tatlo na yan. Primary survey, CPR, and then choking. Okay. Next week, holiday tayo. The following week will be our last meeting. Hindi ko na kayo bibigyan ng assignment or task yung video. That's it. Ito yung importante kasi itong tatlo na to. Yung mga susunod naman kasi is yung mga minor din at the same time, babalikan din natin si CPR. Kasi pag-uusapan natin yung stroke, pag-uusapan natin yung cardiac arrest. Yung kanina yung napanood natin that is a cardiac arrest. So, diretso naman lagi yung sa CPR. Okay, so meron po mga concerns bago tayo maghiwa-hiwalay. Maliwanag po lahat. Okay na tayo ha. Okay, so lahat naman yan nasa canvas. Right, so for that, let's be a hero to someone. Okay. Importante to, ang swerte ninyo kasi napag-aralan natin itong lahat. So for that, that's all for today. So enjoy your vacation. Okay, please enjoy your vacation. And kumain ng maayos. Huwag magmadaling kumain para hindi macho. Sige, thank you for that. Thank you so much, class. Goodbye and good morning.
Thank you, ma'am.